CNN has exclusive new reporting, and sources tell us the Navy is considering a new name for an aircraft carrier that it's building, potentially President Trump's name. But wait, because there's more. Because that carrier already had a name. It was slated to honor this man, Doris Dory Miller, a black sailor who fearlessly jumped into action during Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. I'm talking about a war hero. Miller was a mess attendant, third class in rank. It was one of the only jobs in the Navy that was open to black men. The day of the attack, December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy, he had just finished serving breakfast and was gathering laundry when the explosions started. Well, Miller aided his wounding commanding officer. He took control of an anti-aircraft gun without any training. His story was so powerful that Hollywood put it on the big screen in the movie Pearl Harbor. I'm joined now by Doris Miller's great nephew, Thomas Bledsoe. Thomas, thank you so much for being here. I know you and the rest of the family were not notified about this, so tell me, how did you react when you first heard that the future USS Doris Miller might be renamed and potentially after President Trump?
So for our family, it was quite a shock to hear that was conversation about the possibility of renaming the Doris Miller carrier. And so not only was it a shock, but it was also a shock that we found out from a news outlet and probably from the Navy. And so it caused a lot of concerns and uncertainty. And so for us, it immediately became a family group conversation about what is happening, what does it mean, because in January 2020 was a big day for us when we went to the naming ceremony and got the opportunity to see what was happening and then to see Doris Miller get recognition in such a great way as we continue to fight for him to get recognition for the Congressional Medal of Honor as well.
This wasn't just any ship naming, as you've talked about. I mean, it was set to be the first aircraft carrier named for a black American and an enlisted sailor. So what would be lost if his name is taken off this carrier?
So it has a great significance for that. One of the things about Doris Miller's story is not only about him being the hero that he was on that day at Pearl Harbor, but it was also about an individual stepping beyond the means of what they were assigned to do and going above and beyond. And that why not me moment was very significant, not only for the African American community, but for Americans overall. It's a testament to how society can put you in boxes, but then being able to step outside that and have great moments is such significance. And even more so, when I got an opportunity to hear my great grandfather Connery talk about his son, it wasn't just that Doris was a hero, it was that he was a son to someone, a brother to someone, and the significance of what African Americans were going through at that time really played out through history and really showed one of the first steps into civil rights, one of the first steps into African Americans being seen outside of what society had placed on them. And so this isn't just about a name on a ship, it's about an opportunity and a goal. It's about a significance in what it means to be an American. And it's also about how we as a community can grow as one and become one towards one goal as a nation is so important.
The phrase, why not me, resonates so deeply for so many people, and to hear his story and the impact on our entire country, and dare I say, the world. Thomas, we are hearing the Navy is also considering naming another warship for your great uncle and recommending him for the Medal of Honor, something your family, as you have said, has fought for years. Would that somehow compensate if his name is truly taken off this aircraft carrier? Or is this not the either or?
One, it is an honor for him to be continually be spoken of in consideration for Congressional Medal of Honor. That is something that my great grandmother Henrietta constantly worked for, and it's been passed on generations to make sure we can see that one day come true. But even if they take his name and rename another ship, it is also about timing. So we're looking at my mother, my uncles, which is our Doris's nieces and nephews that are in their 70s, and them being able to have the opportunity to see this go to fruition is so important. So naming another ship, although it's a great honor, we're talking about timing of another generation that may miss the opportunity to see something go to the final end.
If the president, Secretary Hegseth, or the Navy secretary were watching right now, what would you tell them?
What I would say is Doris Miller stands for so much about America and who we are today. And to, as they're contemplating or maybe contemplating changing the name, to take a moment and realize the significance of what the name is and the significance of what it truly inspires and impacts this nation today, and the importance of timing. And so although I understand that these decisions are made well above in many different levels, I would really want someone to take the time to realize the true impact of changing the name and what it would do to society, and also young girls and young boys that look up to Doris Miller and his story and who they want to aspire to be one day and going above and beyond.
Doris Miller, so significant. Thomas Bledsoe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So powerful. Joining me now, retired Navy Senior Chief Petty Officer Malcolm Nance. He's also a New York Times best-selling author and host of the Black Man Spy podcast on Substack. Good to see you again. It's been a long time, Malcolm. Chief, you served in the Navy for 20 years. And I understand that Miller's story in particular has meant so much to your family. How do you feel hearing they may scrap the plan for now?
You know, my father, who served in the Navy in World War II, was 15 when he ran away from home in Georgia and joined the Navy. He lied about his age. And that was in 1944. Dory Miller was already an icon in that community. He inspired thousands upon thousands of young men to see what the ultimate sacrifice for America was. And it wasn't just what happened to him on December 7th, 1941. It was December 7th, 1943, when he lost his life on the USS Liscum Bay after a Japanese torpedoing. What Dory Miller represents here, and I'm speaking as a chief, okay? And my job as a chief is to, one, maintain the dignity and the honor of the deck plate sailors and to help recalibrate the officers above me. And when I say this honor was not just because he was an enlisted man or a Black man who won the Navy Cross. It was the honor of the 643 other men who died with him that day. World War II, when my dad was out there serving in the Pacific, men were dying by the hundreds. This was the first capital warship named for an enlisted man, named for a person who won the Navy Cross. And the Navy Cross automatically gets you a Medal of Honor review, which was not granted to him. But it symbolizes the moment of every one of our Navy sailors, men and women, for that one moment that encapsulates honor, courage, commitment.
And yet we are hearing from sources saying that there were internal conversations about renaming the ship, not after one of the other men on that same ship, but after President Trump. Now, it would be unprecedented to name an aircraft carrier after a sitting president. So why even consider this? And what is your reaction to that consideration?
You know, Navy carriers and other capital warships, yeah, they've been named after people, presidents who have generally served in the armed forces. John F. Kennedy, to name one, right, who was a PT boat commander in the Pacific. But this is about taking something, a tradition the Navy took decades to do, and to strip it away, to take our own honor away from the sailors who were preparing to build this vessel up from the keel up and turn it into a symbol, not just of American power, of America's strength in every person who gave their life there. He would be disgracing every man, woman who died in naval service. And let me say something. I have one thing I would like to say.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the Chief of Naval Operations, the Secretary of the Navy, and especially you, Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, there are times in your career where you have to drop your anchors. This is one of those times. You stand up for our honor, meet your commitment, and have the courage to say, this vessel needs to maintain its tradition. We've never done this before. To strip that away from the enlisted men and women and the honor of the diversity, that is our strength. And the president should be man enough to understand that this isn't about him. This is about those other men and women who died on the Liscum Bay that day, 2 years after Pearl Harbor. Dorian Miller just represents them all.